There is a lot of information to digest in Nioh 3. From weapon stats to your character stats, choosing which ones to level up, how to scale weapons, how all this plays into your equipment as well as encumbrance, it can be a bit daunting. Well, in this video today, I want to go over some secrets regarding this system for those that are either brand new to the genre or to Nioh as a whole. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos. So with all that being said, let me just kind of give you the quick facts right here. Try and get all of your stats to 10 as soon as possible. This is going to afford you a lot of comfort across your key and key recovery rate, health, encumbrance, and having enough yin positions for your soul cores. This is also the first break point where the amount you get from point investment starts to change. The order that you should do that roughly could be in the weapon or weapons you use the most. For instance, if you want to dual wield the samurai katanas, focus on heart, as that's one of the stats for weapon scaling. Scaling itself chooses from the highest of the three stats listed in the reference stat of the item for the biggest boost to damage. It'll then choose the next highest and then the lowest to scale the damage. On the note of weapon scaling, don't get too lost in the weeds on this. You don't need to adhere to the weapon scaling of any item because you can change it at the blacksmith once you have the proper materials and everything leveled up. Using axes and focusing on magic, intellect, and skill, great, just swap them at the blacksmith and don't worry. Lastly, all this can be respec'd for free at any time. Just go to a shrine and respec your stats. Furthermore, you can save entire loadouts, including gear and stat allocation in the preparation portion of the shrine. So I encourage you to play how you want. Try out different weapons and armor with different stats. Then re-roll all those stats once you find a playstyle and weapon set that works best for you. Nioh 3 is far less rigid than its entire genre typically, let alone previous Nioh titles, so just have fun. But that's too long didn't watch this entire video. If that's all you want to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. You can navigate ahead to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters about the timeline in the description. And if you are heading out and you found the video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. You can find a link below to my Twitch where I'll be doing giveaways of Nioh 3, so you can go ahead and check that out. But let's get started on the secrets to stats and weapon scaling in Nioh 3. Loading into the game, let's talk about stats. Now, there's a lot of complexity here, and I want to just kind of give you a primer here. Again, I'm assuming you've never played any of these style of games. You've never played any of the Soulsborne games, what have you. And what's important to know is that there's two things for these stats. One, that they sometimes have diminishing returns, meaning that over time, they will give you less of a value. Or they have a set of either odd or even numbers, or every 2 or every 3, that will give you different varying amounts. So let me give you 2 examples of these. So right now we have 9 skill. If I bring this up to 10 skill, you can see right here that it gave me 11 arts proficiency, 1 ranged attack, 2 melee, 1 ranged attack, and 11 ninjutsu. So this is my samurai, this is my ninja. Now those are going to scale, of course, according to the actual weapon. So just keep these things in mind, but I want to just at least bring this stuff up. And you also see that we got 10 life. Typically the breakpoints, and I don't know what they all are yet. I think they're at much larger numbers, but the first set of breakpoints seem to happen at 10, meaning once you put 10 points into a skill, into a stat, it will start to change the effects of what it gives you. So let's put one more point into this. Arts proficiency, rather than going up by 11, now went up by 10, as you can see right there. And our range attack, rather than going up by 1, went up by 2, so now it's at 3. And if I look at melee attack, it went up by 4. Range attack again went up by 2, and then ninjutsu power went up by 10. So these things, and this even tells us, skill affects your arts proficiency power and ninjutsu power. Arts proficiency is for samurai, ninjutsu is for ninjas. Our life, though, went up by 10. So this gives you an example of how sometimes these things will scale differently. Stamina, for example, here, this used to give me 10 life. Now it gives me 14. So some of these things will scale up, some will scale down. Again, I don't know what all those values are. Current encumbrance rate used to be 1.4. Now it's 1.6 per point. So, and you'll probably hit a point where that means, like, let's just say at 30 points, this is now 0.8 or 0.4. There's some sort of diminishing return on the value. So understand that first. Now, in addition to stats, let's just kind of quickly go through them from the top from the bottom, because I think understanding how those aspects work is very crucial to understanding where to invest points first. Constitution, as it says here, greatly increases your life. As you see, this gives us 30 life versus heart, which is only going to give us 10 life. Or skill, I think, give us 10 life. And I think strength will give us, most things will give you a lot of life, which is nice in this game. Like if you take, for example, like a Dark Souls game, you usually have to go into 1 or 2 stats, maybe 3, that will help with health. A lot of these help with health, but Constitution is the lion's share of your health, and oftentimes it'll also scale with specific weapons. Like I'm using a hammer, so that scales our melee attack. Next up is heart, and keep in mind too, the affected weapon types are all right here. So as we go through these little pictures are going to change, right? Anything that has a box around it, you currently have equipped. Anything that's filled in is something that is then affected by that stat. Now, it's kind of confusing because if I look at this Constitution for hammer, that's filled in, but so is strength, and I think stamina. Yeah, and stamina. But I don't know what I have to actually go look at an axe to see which one is first in line for the actual weapon scaling. We'll get to that in the next section. But into heart, we go up by 1 point here. You can see this increases our life, our key recovery rate. It can also help out with ranged attacks depending on what your weapon is. Also can help out with weapon scaling, you know, like it says here though, affects key and key recovery. I'm not sure where the breakpoint is on this though, or where the diminishing returns is. 2 points still gives me 10. It's been the same amount since day 1. Stamina here affects your life and your max equipment weight. I will have a whole section of this video dedicated to weight limit and current encumbrance rate. Current encumbrance rate. So you can jump ahead of that if you so wish. But encumbrance rate is either going to slow you down or speed you up, depending upon what that number is and the corresponding color. We want this to typically be a good value as per your playstyle. Some people like playing very heavy characters with high encumbrance so that they can just take and face tank tons of damage. Some like being very nimble, so they have this as low as possible. I like a good middle ground where that number stays green like that. So that's how stamina works. It's also going to affect your life as well, so keep that in mind. As we go over to strength here, this is going to increase life and key damage dealt. What is that? That is the blue bar underneath the enemy's health. So it's the likelihood of getting them closer and closer to being staggered, more or less. As you can see here, if we press this button, affects how much key damage attacks with melee weapons inflict upon enemies. Also, you know, some melee weapons are going to scale with this as well, as per every one of these stats. Skill here is going to affect your life, but mainly it's going to help out with your arts proficiency and your ninjutsu power, like we talked about before. Arts proficiency, remember, that's the thing when you build up that gauge on the right side of the screen, that if you're in samurai mode or if you're a ninja, it's the capacity for doing basically what is the new kind of pseudo magic is into ninjutsu nowadays. So it's a nice way to scale that. Now, these last two are pretty important because they scale a lot of things outside of this menu. Intellect is going to help out with your life, as you can see at the top right corner, but also helps out with key recovery speed, more so than heart. This is 2.2 versus the key recovery speed of 0.4. So just to kind of show you that very comparison. Also, it helps out with effect duration of any ailment that you apply to things. But an important thing about intellect is it's your ability to equip accessories. I almost said accessories. So if I come out of this screen really quick, we go over here, we go to equipment. All these are your accessories, and you'll see here that they're going to have a requirement for activation and right in that column right there. Let's go back to that level up screen. Now, our last one here is magic. Now, amongst all these skills, I think this one is very important. Of course, it's going to give you life, but it's also going to give you Omnio magic power, which is important, but also mainly if we come, I don't know why I said it like that, like I'm like sports announcing something. We're going to go to our managed soul cores. The capacity for having more soul cores is afforded to you by the amount of magic stat you have. This is the default one that's always open. Then you get this one at, I believe it's either 6 or 8, and then this one at 10, then 15, 25, and 40. So to unlock more of these yin positions, to get more talismans, or to get more of the magic in this game, which is Thunderstorm Shot Talisman right there, you'll need to have more actual magic stat. So this does help you when you're not maybe specifically doing a magic build, but when you're doing builds outside of that. Now, there's one other thing I want to talk about too as it pertains to stats, and that is your item requirements and respecking. So coming back into this screen, we can take a look at our current stats. My current level is 28, and I have enough to go up to 30. At any point in the game, you can reset your stats. Now, I've heard that this is not present in the demo. People have not been able to find it, or maybe they just haven't tried to do it from this screen. You could only reset when you are in the level up screen. So you need to be at a shrine, go to level up screen, and you'll see the lower right hand corner. This says reset right here. So 3 on a PC, or just press the left thumbstick down, and you'll see that it says just like this. So it just shows you all the negative numbers, resetting everything to its parent value. I have one more strength here because of a choice that I made during the narrative. So that's important to know. But before we do that, let me just kind of show you how this works. It doesn't reset everything to 0. It gives me basically a bank of points. As you can see down here, remaining stats 27. And I can put those points back in. So you can see, you know what? Before I respec, I was at 10. Well, let me just go to 8. I'm just using hypotheticals here. I was at 6 before. Well, let me go to 8. So now you can see exactly where you were and where you want to be. But before you really do this, you'll see something at the bottom here. Affects the effects of Omnio Magic, but you'll see special effect requirements. What the hell does that mean? That is bound to you because of certain items you have equipped, or Omnio boxes, soul cores, whatever it is. You have things that require certain stats at certain values. So 6 to 7, I know I need 7 to just be manageable with the current items that I have equipped. I know I need 5, I'm good there. I know I need 9 for my ninjutsu. 6 here is fine. 8 here for my ninjutsu, ninja. And then 8 here for my ninja. So this will allow me to use all my current items that I have right now on my characters, and then I can allocate points as I need to. So just make sure you have that special effect requirement thing fulfilled at the bottom before you do any major respecking, because it is important. So are you sure you want to cancel these stats? Yes, I'm sure. Now jumping ahead here a little bit, the last thing I want to tell you about stats and respecking is when you organize your stats, make sure you try to get all of them to 10 as fast as possible. Intellect is lagging behind in my example here, but what this does is it allows us to I have my stamina to 10. This is going to give me good current encumbrance rate. I have my heart. This is going to give me good ki and ki recovery speed. Constitution is going to give me a lot of health. Remember, health is going to get the most from Constitution. My magic is at 10, so I'm going to take advantage of having more of my yin positions open for my soul cores. That is the biggest thing. And then after you get them to 10, or maybe the order in which you get them to 10 is dependent upon the weapons you want to use. Remember, all these items are showing that these are going to scale off of those. You just have to have one of them be the highest, right? Or that's in our next section. We'll go through that more. But in this example, I know that stamina is going to help scale my two-handed axe. And I like using that. And I like using my claws right now. So my stamina is the highest. Also, it happens to help my current encumbrance rate. So make sure you get the first stat to 10 is the one that corresponds to one of the reference stats for the weapon you like to use. Now let's talk about, because that sounds a little confusing, let's talk about that weapon scaling, because this will help clear up how that weapon scaling works with those reference stats. So let's now talk about actual weapon scaling. And this time around, it's very well streamlined. So we take a look over here at our dual tachi that we've got, and we can see at the bottom of this screen, we see reference stats. These reference stats are what are going to scale the damage of this weapon. In other games of this ilk, it'll say different values like S tier, A tier. Hey, this will scale at an S tier rank, so it's much faster or much better, whatever it is. This is a lot more streamlined. So now the way it works in Nioh 3 is indicates which 3 core stats influence your attack. The stat with the highest value will affect it greatly. The next highest value will affect it slightly, and the lowest will have a minimal effect. So what does that mean? It is saying that it's going to take our highest of these 3 listed, and that's what it's basically going to scale with. The next highest, it will have a slight effect, and the third highest will have a minimal effect. So if we're using this as a reference, our heart is at 11. So that is going to be not the highest. Or I'm sorry, it is the highest, because then we have strength at 10, and then we have magic at 10. So it'll just scale that weapon like that. That is it. That's how weapon scaling works. It's pretty easy. So this allows you to take a look at other items and scale them together. You know what? And actually, this is an actual example for me. I use the axe a lot, and I use dual tachi a lot. So strength is an overlapping stat for both of these, so I can take advantage of them. Or I can look at, let's just say the spear here. Heart is an overlapping thing to the dual tachi. So let me actually just press this button. Oops, nope. Press this button. So I can see from this screen just alone that this is a great way to look at it too. You use what you have equipped with a weapon that you do like, and you can see the reference stats at the bottom. So, hey, you know, like I said, heart overlaps, cool, I'll go ahead and do that. And furthermore, let's bring this over to the samurai. The Uchigatana shares a different scaling than the dual tachi. It has heart, it has magic, but instead of having strength, it has intellect. So you can just kind of use this as a way to choose a stat that plays into weapons for the style that you want, whether it be samurai and ninja or ninja, and the weapon variations that you want. Another further example here, I like dual tachi, so I like the dual uchigatana, so I also like the talons, which all use heart. Actually, it's not true. I like just a standard edition uchigatana, which in this case, they would both share intellect. They'd both share just intellect. But that is how weapon scaling works. But let's see how we can turn the system on its head by breaking the rules of the reference stats. So we're going to come over here to the blacksmith, and in the blacksmith, we have remodel. Remodel equip. I'm going to tell you what it'll be today. Well, remodel equipment with plus values and change the equipment's characteristics. That's the important thing. But know that it has to have a plus value on it, that +1. You can get that through Soul Match. That is another system I'm going to explain in its own video. But basically, this used to be a system where you could pull the plus value off of one thing and put on another. It's different in Nioh 3, so I have a whole crafting video coming. But let's take a look at this spear. This spear has the reference stats that we see right here, right? Well, we'll select it, and now we can see that that's Constitution, Heart, and Skill. We can uncheck these and choose any reference stats that we want. So let's go back to what it was. We can see that it's 373 was its standard damage. Let's just swap Constitution with Intellect. That actually went down, right? Because we went from 3 stats that all had 10 and 11 to now a stat that had 7. It's only 2 damage points, but you can see how minimal, quote unquote, the third lowest is. Let's now put our highest to Stamina. And you can see how great of an effect that is. So it went up by 5 points by having just simply 1 point higher than our second highest point, right? And you can see by having 3 points lower, we dropped yet again 2 points. So I'm sure that there's some sort of scale, and it's on a graduated scale too, based off of the point system and everything. Don't get too lost in that of like, oh, okay, I need to min-max this by having only X value of points difference between each one. Don't worry about that. And it may, someone in the future might figure that out, and you can just respec it if you're really that concerned about it. But this just shows you exactly how this system works, and that, hey, this is the greatest, this is second greatest, this is the lowest. And let's actually even bring this to 7. You can see too, that was only 2 points dropped, just like it was before. So this gives you a sense of how you can actually play along with all these reference stats. Now, this does require materials, and you can get these materials easier by setting up auto disassemble, and that'll be in the next section here, just that you can just have that in the option settings. So every time you visit a shrine, it'll take care of it. This is not a lot of material, so it's quick to build up. But this is how you would break this system. First, you have to soul match and give it a +1, and then you just change the reference stats to whatever reference stats you want across all the weapons that you're using. Now, I had talked about this before we get into the next section. If you want to know how to turn on that capability to auto disassemble, you'll go to basic game settings. Then you'll go over here to, make sure you always pick stuff up, but then go to automatically dispose of excess equipment. I have it set to disassemble, and it says auto disposal notification list. You can change this to simplified notifications if you want, but I have it set to list and to only do common items, because common items don't really do, they won't break into soul cores, they won't break into offerings, and they won't be sold for any of those that are worth value. Disassemble gives you actually quite a bit of materials. Then we come back to this shrine, and it pops this menu up immediately. See, upper left-hand corner, it says disassemble, and it has things already selected, and it tells me how much obtainable materials we're going to be getting from all of that auto disassemble. I can also just choose to press back and not disassemble any of it. So when I come back into this, it'll have that same menu pop up on me again. So this is how you're going to be able to disassemble things quickly. So you've got all the needed materials for doing any kind of reforging of those weapon scales. So stamina is a big part of any of these games, and they just control so much about your character. My character looks pretty damn cool right now, right? A lot of really awesome armor on, but I'm not moving too quickly. In fact, I'm kind of damn slow, and I've actually have quite a bit of stamina. So what does this mean? Why can I not look like a badass? Well, you need to get more stamina for one, but it's all about playing with the relative weight of armor in this game. Now, typically games of this genre are pretty generic in the sense that, hey, this is this armor piece, like the Crimson Knight armor set. It has a very specific value for everything. In this game, you have a bunch of different armor pieces that you then mix and match, which again, you can do in previous games, but you have just a big loot system in this game to take a look at. So I'm wearing, oh, I meant to put these on too, but let's see. There we go. Now we got a real good indicator of how slow we are. And you can see too, what this means is at the bottom, you can look how we're at 1000 total key. I'm gonna go ahead and roll. That took almost 30% of my key, went to 793. Well, about 20 or so, right? 25, we'll just call it whatever. But how does this all get factored? So we have this value up here, our equipment weight, and then we have these values right here. Every single piece of armor will have 1, 2, or 3 of these little dumb weights. And those dumb weights are indication of the actual heaviness of the item. So the Warrior of the East set is a super heavy set. And this is then reflected up here. Our equipment weight, you can see it's 32 out of 35 total allotted because of our, sorry, what's it called? Because of our stamina. And we want to make sure that we are maybe trying to, let's see if we can get, I don't think I can actually get this above the value into the red. But we want to make sure that we're at least at bare minimum below this number, because this is then going to dictate quite a bit. I think if I press this button, it'll tell us exactly how that, okay, I thought it would show the game's description of all that stuff. But it affects your agility, it affects the amount of ki that is drained, it affects how much ki is going to cost you to dodge, everything. So it's pretty crucial to try to stay at a point that fits the playstyle. If you want it that high, you better be building into stuff that makes it so that you take less damage, or you are taking, or you're helping out with your ki pulses or stamina recovery. You're doing stuff that makes it so that you can actually, there are some armor pieces that will say, you do more damage when you are dealt damage. And that's a whole way you can play. So there is that capability. Now, conversely, we can go ahead and we can sort this. We'll sort this by weight. We'll jump to the top. And this is going to show us, you can see that right now, that's a medium armor piece because it has 2 of the dumb weights. And this is a dumb weights. This is a light armor piece all the way down to the training robe, which is still light. But let's go ahead and just kind of swap here into just the lightest armor to show you that difference in the stamina and everything. So now you can see that it turns all the way to blue. So you get blue, green, then like an orange, and then eventually a red. But that is going to put us all the way at the bottom. So we're now going to take substantially more damage. As you can see, our toughness stat is way low at 59. So that's your trade-off. You're either going to wear way more armor and get better defense, better toughness, better resistances, damage reductions, whatever it is, and you're going to go slower and suffer in stamina, or you're going to be super nimble. Take a look at that. 1050, one roll put us to 875. So being all the way over max, it's 875 versus 793. So it's what, 70 plus another 7, so, or 75 plus another 7. So, God, dude, 84. My brain is crap. Drink more caffeine. So you can see too, my character runs faster. He jumps a little bit higher. I don't think the jump actually is affected, but in general, you are just far more nimble as a character. So I think blue is a very specific playstyle, and then orange is a very specific playstyle. I like to hang out pretty much the entire time in green. Green is kind of where I want to be. It fits my playstyle. It fits the way I've kind of built out my characters. And I'm going to go ahead and put all that on really quick. I always sort this by level. There we go. There we go. There we go. And there we go. So you can see in my set, I have mix and match things. I said, okay, I want some good defense. So I've got 3 heavy armor pieces on. Right? And then I was like, okay, well, I have to balance that out so I stay below my threshold. Cool. I get it right there, and I get it right there. If I jump up just to, I think it's just 70, so when you start to bleed into the orange up there, as you can see. And every single piece too, it's like, it's kind of having trade-offs, right? Like I know that chest pieces are the highest in weight item, more or less, and that the gauntlets are much lower, right? So heavy gauntlets here are 5.0 versus a chest piece that's heavy is 10.0. And that's just, these are just these versions. There's every single item has different varying weights and everything like that. But the classification for those two, you can see the difference. Even taking a look at the legs, this is 7.5, 7.5. So this shows you, okay, well, I've got a heavy headpiece on, I've got a heavy chest piece on, and I've got heavy legs. So I'm gonna need to wear light here to kind of balance that out until my actual stamina stat gets better. Then you can play with heavier armor, different kind of setups, all sorts of things. So we've talked about all this, and this of course applies just the same over here to Ninja. Just kind of however you want to do it, you have the same exact system that is applied here. I find it to be a little bit harder to max out your Ninja's weight, because I don't think I've seen any heavy armor pieces for Ninja yet. I think they're all light and medium. Please take that with a grain of salt, as I have not hit the max level of the game. Perhaps they are there, but it seems to be way harder to do that with a Ninja. It's just kind of the same system though all the way around. So we talked about that. And of course too, like I said, just to kind of drive this point home real quick, your attacks themselves also change as far as how much ki is generated and how fast they are, the more or the less or the more or less stamina that you have. Blue, green, orange in fast, normal, slow attack speed patterns and what have you. So just kind of know those things when it comes to stamina. Let me give you one last thing when it comes to your stats to really help streamline this process. To close our video out, let's talk about auto equip, because that's going to streamline a lot of what you've learned now. So I put on just a bunch of crap level, low level gear, and you can see on my character that I've got these little exclamation points. That means I've picked up items that are new. Well, when there's little up chevrons, little up arrows right next to those exclamation points, it means that not only do I have new items, but I have new items that are better than what I'm currently equipping. So remember we talked about equipment weight, right? And how green is where I like to stay personally for my play style, but you play how you want. Well, we have this feature down here called auto equip. Now it's 4 on a keyboard, on a thumbstick, or I'm sorry, on a controller, it's the right thumbstick. So we're gonna go ahead and press right thumbstick. And we have this option. Now, if you do not have this on the demo, don't worry, it's coming with the full release of the game. If you're watching this after the fact, you won't have to worry about that. But I've heard this is not present on the demo. You've got those 3 tiers we talked about. You've got the blue, which is A, green, which is B, and what I thought was orange, which is clearly yellow on this screen up there, it looked more like orange. Agility here is C. So I like to play with B. So let's go ahead and go B. So this took and mismatched everything the way that it wanted to get me to a B equipment rate that would keep me playing how I like to play with the items that are most optimized for what you currently have equipped and set up. This only applies to your what's it called? Your primary weapon and your, I'm sorry, I'm trying to show you here. There we go. Auto equip, B or above. So you can see what it'll do here is it'll keep your classification of weapon you've selected, but it only applies to your armor when it comes to just wild assortment of options here. So if I switch this, let's just say to the Palisade Breaker, which is a different hammer, and we'll switch this to a matchlock, and then we press this button again to B or above. See, this gave me the best hammer that I have equipped, and this gave me the best matchlock that I have equipped. Just to kind of give you one more example here, just a generic longbow. Let's go down to bottom level. Let's go to a spear. We'll press it again, and this now gives me the best spear I've got and the best longbow that I've got. So know that for weapons, this applies. You just have to choose the weapon that you like. The game won't force you into it. And also I think too, this will then reflect your choice of weapons, and your choice of certain other things that you might have. Now, in the beginning of the game, this is not going to mean a whole ton because you can't really do Spirit Force bonus, enemy electrified. Unless you've really focused on that somehow, you won't be able to take much advantage of it. Or let me see if there's anything, damage over time taken, or damage taken over time. That's fine, that's fine. Sometimes it'll say stuff like you'll do more damage to things that are hit with lightning damage. That's going to be something on my ninja, which I do have, life drain on lightning damage. And it will apply it if it can. So it will take a look at what you've got. It's smart enough to know what you, hey, I see you have Thunderstorm Shot Talisman. Well, we'll give you something here that'll help out with whatever that stat is that can affect it. So the auto equip is pretty good. So if you're bogged down by how stats work, you're really like bogged down with managing all the armor in your inventory, just do auto equip. Just do auto equip until the end of the game or your new game plus, when you're actually working towards a build where auto equip is not going to be as advantageous, because maybe you're going to start using things specifically for specific builds or specific equipment sets and everything like that. And just to kind of quickly say one last thing about that, and just because I said equipment sets, and this will be in its own video too, but to let you know, you can come over here and you can go over to preparations, manage equipment sets, and make your own equipment sets. So everything of what we just said across your stats, everything can be kind of created into its own set, so you can quickly swap to and from all those things. And as we close our video out here, the last thing I want to show you is just basically the screen that shows you pretty much everything that you've done so far. You can access this by going to your equipment, pressing Y on the controller, or let's see what it is. I think actually it's just control, isn't it? Yeah, it's just control on a keyboard. It says status in the lower right corner there. And this gives us all of our basic information of our Amrita, our gold, our skill capacity, all of our stats, but detailed information about everything that we would want to see as far as that goes. But the big one here is special effects. So any of those special effects that you generated from your items, they then go into this thing broken into the respective category. So if you've been looking at an item and it says this is in the damage dealt category, well, here it goes right there. It's in the damage dealt category. Or this is in like the key recovery category, or key reduction. There you go. Or yeah, here's key recovery, Spirit Force category. So that's what it means when it says in that category. It's referring to it in this special effects section. So you can see, oh, okay, what you can even look at the actual individual ones if you want. So, hey, here's all these status effects and whatnot. And you can just kind of drill down a little bit easier on what's the most. Like, let me look it through this really quick. I've got 20% medicine efficacy. Cool, sick. 8% elixir drop rate's pretty high. Did I say 20%? No, that's 20%. I almost thought I said 200. 11% martial arts damage. Okay, cool. I should be stacking martial arts stuff. So you can use this screen to help give you context clues on how to build out your equipment. So hopefully this gives you a better idea on how to navigate your stats, your equipment, everything in the game. Everything derives from your stats. It's just kind of a typical thing of this entire genre. And it's very different in Nioh 3, even more so than it has been in the previous Nioh titles. So this is a great way to be able to swing into specific stats, weapon scaling, and equipment that all make sense for you and the way that you want to play. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. If you have any comments or recommendations, go ahead and let it be known in the comment section below. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one and take care.